Hi there lovelies, I'm Rhonda Crimes. I'm a life and leadership coach supporting everyday people just like you to reflect and rework your everyday stories so you can step into the everyday leadership of your families and communities and create compelling, meaningful and fruitful lives every day. I am really happy to be continuing on with this guidepost in my blog edition of Brené Brown's book, The Gift of Imperfection. I've been breaking up the book into bite-sized pieces with shorter videos so you can watch or listen to them on the fly instead of having to find too much extra time. But reading the book for yourself is pure gold. Today let's talk about the gifts of imperfection, cultivating a resilient spirit, part 2. So my lovelies, we're still here on the third of the 10 guideposts, and by now I'm sure you will have noticed that they overlay and interconnect with each other. They are not single threads, but they are more like a tightly woven fabric. So, shall we continue? Guidepost number 3, cultivating a resilient spirit, letting go of numbing and powerlessness. Last week we were introduced to the protective factors that resilient people share. And the critical aspect that spirituality plays in resilience. We looked at the links between hope and powerlessness. Then how being more critically aware also builds resilience. I would actually recommend that you take a look at that video before you watch this one, as the first builds upon the second. I've added the link in the notes to make it easier for you to find. Without further ado, let's look at numbing and taking the edge off. Majority of people we speak to all have strategies to do this, to cope with their self-worth, dealing with uncomfortable emotions like grief, sadness, despair, anger, guilt, shame and disappointment. And I'm sure you will have your own go-to way to numb or take the edge off when you feel vulnerable, when you feel in any sort of discomfort or pain. An interesting point I read is that Brené found while some people know exactly what they're doing, some are just not aware that this is what they're doing. They haven't made that connection. So they would be stuck on the autopilot patterning of unconscious incompetence. Whereas those people living a wholehearted life are consciously trying to feel the feelings, staying mindful about numbing behaviours, and trying to lean into the discomfort of hard emotions. She shares what she learned as she tried to get a better understanding of the consequence of numbing and how taking the edge off behaviour is related to addiction. Firstly, most of us engage in behaviours, consciously or not, that help us to numb and take the edge off vulnerability, pain and discomfort. Addiction, secondly, can be described as chronically and compulsively numbing and taking the edge off feelings. And thirdly, we cannot selectively numb emotions. When we numb painful emotions, we also numb the positive ones. Brené draws a really commanding imagery for our most powerful emotions. She says, those we experience have very sharp points, like the tip of a thorn. When they prick us, they cause discomfort and even pain. Even just thinking about a thorn pricking our soft flesh can be uncomfortable. Like if we imagine that we're going to walk through a double PG patch barefoot, or grab hold firmly of a bunch of rose stems, the thoughts are enough to trigger a pain response for us. And similarly, unbearable vulnerability can be triggered just by anticipating uncomfortable emotions. We know what's coming. We know how hard it's going to be. And for many of us, we will do all we can to avoid those sharp pricks. We don't want to lean into the discomfort and feel our way through it. We want it to all go away now by any means necessary. And we do that by numbing and taking the edge off with whatever provides the quickest relief. Alcohol, sleeping, drugs, sex, food, money, work, caretaking, busyness, shopping, planning, perfectionism, constant change, and of course, scrolling. Facebook, Netflix, YouTube, Instagram, Foxtel, TikTok, Snapchat, Stan, WhatsApp, Messenger, and the list just keeps getting bigger. Brené shares that prior to her research, she thought numbing and taking the edge off was just about addiction, but not anymore. Now she believes everyone does it, but addiction is about engaging in these behaviours compulsively and chronically. She noted that people living wholehearted lives were not immune to numbing, but they were aware of the hazards and had developed skills to feel their way through high vulnerability experiences. There are many factors that contribute to addiction, and not everyone's experience is the same. She asks us to consider, through her own real life example that she writes about in the book, which you will need to read for yourself, that for most of her life she had been trying to outrun vulnerability and uncertainty. She went on to say, I wasn't raised with the skills and emotional practice needed to lean into discomfort. So over time, I basically became a take the edge off-aholic. For her, it wasn't just about smoking and drinking. It was eating and planning and being a perfectionist and worrying and finding anything else that would dull those agonising and anxiety-fueled feelings of vulnerability. Now, I notice many of the people I speak to, and I include myself, we've been taking the edge off our discomfort with the uncertainties of the COVID pandemic, the lockdowns and job uncertainties. Just a couple of drinks each night to take the edge off. Just a little bit of, or a little bit more, online shopping to help ignore depression and stress. For me, bread and butter, peanut butter and jam is a firm numbing practice. I prepare it with care and then savour the tastes and textures, losing myself in the whole process. Brené writes, understanding my behaviours and feelings through a vulnerability lens rather than strictly through an addiction lens changed my life. She went on to say it's also strengthened her commitment to sobriety, abstinence, health and spirituality. The next important revelation she makes is that her research taught her that selective emotional numbing does not exist. There is a spectrum of emotions, much like the rainbow we see as light moves through a prism. Yet when we cover the prism, the whole rainbow disappears. Equally, when we numb the dark emotions, we numb the light ones too. When we take the edge off our pain and discomfort, we are also taking the edge off our joy and happiness. When we come to fully appreciate this, we shift the motivational direction from trying to stay away from the darkness to surrendering into the pull of the light. But joy is just as thorny and as sharp as any of the dark emotions. Everything we do and feel comes with its own vulnerability risk. To love intensely, to celebrate spectacularly, and to live a life with a full and open heart, even though we know that offers no guarantees. To live a life with joy, grace and gratitude requires courage, resilience and spirit. Feelings of hopelessness, fear, blame, pain, discomfort, vulnerability and disconnection sabotage resilience. It is so much easier to fight these feelings when we believe we are all in this together, when we have a deep knowing that there is something that is greater than us, that also has the capacity to bring love and compassion into our lives. Practicing spirituality is what brings us healing, openness, perspective and resilience. And whether that's through structured religion or free-form dancing with friends around an impromptu campfire. Without purpose, meaning and perspective, it's easy to lose hope, numb our emotions, or become overwhelmed by our circumstances. Brené tells us that connection is at the heart of spirituality, and when we believe in that complex connection to that which is greater than ourselves, we don't feel alone. Let's take a peek at this guidepost Digging Deep section, where D is for getting deliberate in your thoughts and behaviours through prayer, meditation, or simply setting your intentions. I is for getting inspired to make new and different choices. G is for getting going and taking action, while remembering that digging deep isn't pushing through in the old way. It's about finding a more healing way with good grace, intention and thoughtfulness. So Brené says her D is to practice the vowel check, A-E-I-O-U-Y, that was shared with her by a friend. A, have I been abstinent today? E, have I exercised today? I, have I done enough for myself today? O, what have I done for others today? U, am I holding on to unexpressed emotions today? And Y, yes, what is something good that has happened today? Her I quote is by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. People are like stained glass windows. They sparkle and shine when the sun is out. But when the darkness sets in, their beauty is revealed only if there is a light from within. And her G, she says sometimes the best way for her to get going is through her daily meditations and quiet prayers. Next week, we're going to look into guidepost 4, cultivating gratitude and joy, letting go of scarcity and fear of the dark. I think this is going to be a real eye-opener for some of you. But as always, if your now is not the picture that you've painted for yourself and you'd like any help on this discovery path, or maybe something completely different that you intuitively know or feel isn't letting your true colours shine through, then please get in touch with me. You can do it really easily. Leave a comment, send me a private message, drop me an email, or pop over to my Calendly online diary using the link I've provided, and we can set up an obligation-free curiosity call and see if we're a good fit for each other. Much love, until next time.